All right, let's get this show on the road. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Torn Tuesday, your weekly dose of all things Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, games, music, movies, TV shows, all the above. And due to popular demand, I have turned off my AI eyeball things. So
Well, thank God for simple truths, really.
look, I just
Thank
wanted
God.
to. I just wanted you guys to feel that I was really paying attention to you. So when I look at the different screens, I have the five screens around me. That my eyeballs, AI would just point my eyeballs toward the camera. But a lot of you have
It's
have given us the
terrible.
feedback.
It's terrible. Terrible.
A lot of
It
you
was
said,
genuinely terrible.
"Was it? Was it? Was it? Was it?" I see some of our wonderful
Yes, it was.
regulars. Wonderful regulars are in the chat room.
Yeah, look,
Uh,
this is Torn Tuesday. Once again, we must call out and unfurl the banners of welcoming. And so here we are. At the top of the show, we open up the castle gates, unfurl the banners of generous welcome to all of you gentle folk out there on the interwebs. Welcome. If you're joining us, you might be there on Discord, Twitch, you might be on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, live. We are live all over the place. This is the OneRing.net. You have come back once again to join us on Torn Tuesday. My name is Clifford Broadway. Hello there. How are you doing, Justin, over there? Nice to see you, sir.
I'm very good. And Cliff,
Yes,
we had
indeed.
a wonderful panel at WonderCon. Thank you all for coming out. We had a
Didn't
huge
we?
room, nearly 1,000 seats. The lights were bright. I couldn't even see the crowd because there were so many lights.
Do
We
you know
were
what? I could barely see anything except, I was suddenly reminded of being a little boy and watching Steven Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And we're at the very end of the film where the big doors of the spaceship open up and everyone goes, we're completely blinded by this extraterrestrial light and you can't barely see anything in front of you. That was the experience of being in front of a big audience in WonderCon. I was blinded by the light. You know that song. Oh,
conventions are
no.
back in a big way, and we're so excited to have fellowship and communion with people in person. And
Look what I
we
got.
will be
Look
at
what I
more
got.
conventions.
Look at this
Look at that.
beautiful D20 that I got with a flowing sphere of galaxy glitter on the inside of this beautiful D20. And you shake it up, and all of it swirls like a snow globe. And you know what? It's not entirely balanced, and I know for sure that this dice is not tournament ready. It is not properly balanced, but boy, is it lovely. And, just for, giggles at home. Oh, look, I rolled a nat 20. How about that? Isn't that great?
That's and for people asking in the chat, you get that at WonderCon. You get that at going to conventions like that. There's
Yeah,
usually a few booths that sell custom dice and everything like that.
that's right. It was a booth called Dice Envy. You can look them up online, diceenvy.com.
Yeah, diceenvy.com. So that was a wonderful panel. We gave everybody an update about all the things going on in Middle Earth movies and video games, and of course Rings of Power. We did a little bit of a
We did.
review of Rings of Power. And Cliff, I was actually pleasantly surprised at how engaged and how vocal the audience was. And what
Yes.
would you say the vibe of the room was?
Oh boy, the vibe of the room was, aren't we lucky to be here? And we're very glad that we're talking about this now. We want to talk about this. The energy was unbridled. I don't know how many people were there in the room, but they were vocal. They were unbridled and they were bristling with energy, ready to talk about the Rings of Power. And we did a little bit of an informal canvassing of the room, did we not? And Justin, I found it very interesting. People were asked by you, the moderator, at least two questions. I think one of them had to do with our response to the way that Galadriel was presented in season one by the writers. And I think another question I think you asked was just overall, are you guys enjoying season one? Have you liked it so far? You asked and got a very enthusiastic response about the orcs and the prosthetics that Weta Workshop was making for all of our orcs and Jed Brophy and his wonderful team of actors. But what was really
And
cool,
we also got a big
how vocal they
response.
were. Oh man, yes.
Not only
Yes.
did the audience love the orcs and everything, they were equally
Yeah.
enthusiastic to hear that the Last of Us prosthetics crew is coming on board to replace Weta for season 2. So,
Oh yeah. There was a lot of applause for that. Yeah.
so there is a lot
Yeah.
of enthusiasm and anticipation. But Cliff, I'm gonna be honest. We heard equal amount of boos and awes as much as happy and clapping. I'd say the audience was about 50-50 on
They
the
were.
show, which I
You
think
asked
kind
them,
of,
"Are you guys enjoying the show?" And I heard people say yes, and I heard people say no, and I heard people say yes over them again, and I heard people say no a little bit louder. There was a room of people with kind of like what I have, ambivalence. A room full of
there
people
was a
with
lot
that
of
kind of
response when you
ambivalence.
started when our panel of Nancy and Kathy and then you and I and just the just head scratching decisions. Some of the head scratching decisions that the show made that was rightly pointed out by you and the panel and the audience was responding. I was interested to hear after the panel. A bunch of folks came up and to talk to us and to hear people that loved the show and were actually surprised to hear that other people in the audience did not like the things that they liked about the show. And I guess we got a couple people coming up and kind of saying, thank you for making it okay to criticize the show without being called a name. And that's honestly, that's what this Torn community has always been like, at least from my perspective. For 25 years, Torn has made it okay to criticize Peter Jackson's movies, criticize Glorfindel's treatment, and criticize the exclusion of Bombadil.
Vanishing. You mean Glorfindel's vanishing? Is what
Right.
you mean, yes.
And Arwen at Helm's Deep and criticize Rings of Power. And I feel like Twitter and some social media and some YouTube has made it feel like if you criticize the show, you're a bad person. And we wanted to go the response to the panel after highlighting everything that was good and other things that were head scratching, to hear people say, thank you for pointing out some of the things I had issues with. You've made it okay to, have issues with the show, but I still like it.
Yes. You know what? We talked to a beautiful couple when we walked outside of the auditorium. And the lady said, I'm one of those people who really, really, really likes Galadriel, the way that she is presented. And her husband was next to her, rolling his eyes. And he said, I really hope this is nonsense about them bringing Tom Bombadil into season 2. So there you are in a microcosm of one married couple, how they obviously love each other. They were a very loving older couple. They had been together for years. They were a wonderful couple. But you can also tell that there's a welcome kind of dynamic of dissent, that they don't have to universally agree on everything about the way
it's a respect.
Tolkien, yes, absolutely. That's exactly what it was.
Torn people have always respected each other, and that's what's different between some of these hate tubers and Twitter accounts, is that they don't respect other people's opinions of the show. Of things. XOXO in the chat room says,
I appreciate you said that, Justin. Thank you. I just want to thank you for saying that. Yes.
A comment in the chat room says, I remember when Justin said the Hobbit films wouldn't be good and the rest of the Torn staff was combative. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
And the interesting thing, thank you for bringing up that point, because the follow up to that is, I have become the biggest champion of the Hobbit movies, especially the third one, and the second one is great. And I think I like the Hobbit movies more than Cliff does at this point. And the point being is that I went into the Hobbit movies expecting, and they were what they were, and they got the reviews that they got. But on rewatch, they're a lot of fun, and they feel very Tolkien-ish. And I like them, and I like the choices that they're made that
Yeah.
he made, especially, and the extended editions were way better. But the point being is that whatever notions you have going into a movie or the TV show, you can be pleasantly surprised and turn your thing. I was really looking forward to this show, Rings of Power. Like, I flew around the world twice, 3 times. At my own expense, I flew to New York and then I flew to London for the premiere. I really want to love this show. I really, really do. But by the time we got to episode 6 and 7, I was just like, ugh, what is this? What is going on? So
You weren't having as much fun as others, but I think that something that I pointed out to the audience during the panel was that if you're going to be generous about it, then look at the fact that the writers have given us a Galadriel in season 1, which a lot of people are chafed by. If people are chafed by this, then there's a reason. They're going to have her start at point A and have her story progression through many seasons, go all the way from A to B, all the way down to Z at the end of the alphabet. And we will look at her overall story arc after 5 seasons, and we will look at how far the character developed and changed over time from the beginning to the end. I'm assuming that is why they've given us this early version of first season Galadriel, which, seems to lack empathy. And that is one of the big critiques that came across from Nancy, who very adroitly said that. She crystallized what I was thinking, and she said it so smartly. She said, looking at Galadriel as the Lady of Light and dealing with this season 1 character who seems to really greatly lack any empathy or understanding at all was a hard pill to swallow. And we all talked about it. We were all panelists together on the same panel, having a fair discussion about, well, yeah, that was a pill to swallow, but isn't it going to be interesting to see at the end of season 5 that they bring Galadriel across a very large and hopefully a fully developed character arc that evolves from point A to point B and gets us there. And I'm assuming that's why the writers did what they did in season 1.
I love the jokes in the chat room. You guys are funny. I'll settle for Justin reading the books, listening to the books. I remember when Justin read the Silmarillion. I tell you what, folks, I'm going to have the best time with I'm going to have a better time with this show than any of you will. That's my expectation, because I'm not burdened with the legacy of what Tolkien wrote in bullet point form in the back of the book. Because I'm not burdened with all of this, I expect this. I anticipate that when it comes to all 5 seasons, I am going to love this show and have a better time and more fun time of full, unbridled discovery and not knowing what's coming than most of you will. And I will. That is the reason I am sticking to my guns. Hey, Cliff, should we go to the big breaking news this week?
Yes,
or today,
but
not this week. Today,
you should give me this. You should give me this one moment to offer a gentle counterpoint.
Okay,
and then we'll move on right to the news, ladies and gentlemen. I think you'll back me up when I say reading is fundamental. Okay, we're going to put these glasses on, right? We're going to put these glasses on because the library is now open. Okay, you know what, Justin?
Let me bring you a full screen. I feel like you're about to make a really big point right now.
It is the quality of J.R.R. Tolkien that when they finish a person who's never really gotten through such a big piece of literature, by the time you finish reading The Lord of the Rings, any individual will find themselves fundamentally changed, and something inside your spirit will be changed, and it will flourish inside of you after Professor Tolkien does what he does best, and he unlocks that amazing understanding. When he puts his characters through hell and back, it's a kind of a visceral experience that the reader themselves are also taken to hell and back with these characters. It is remarkable stuff. Don't deny yourself anymore the great pleasure and the edification and the spiritual uplift that you will receive if you allow yourself to just sit and read Tolkien. After all, we just wanted to commemorate Tolkien Reading Day, and this is my way of saying it. If you want to commemorate Tolkien Reading Day, you can do it any day of the year, not just on March 25th. Justin, my friend, I've known you long enough, and I love you dearly as a good friend, as a production partner, but honest, you really should no longer deny yourself this amazing experience and pick up anything and everything you can by J.R.R. Tolkien and just absorb it, live it, breathe it, enjoy it. And then come back to me and tell me that I was wrong. You come back and tell me. Okay? Okay.
Well, I'm going to stick to my love of movies, and to that point, happy birthday, Lee Pace. I believe he's 48 years old, so he's almost Bilbo's age when he starts off on his adventure. Lee Pace, one of my favorite people to come in the Hobbit movies. I know he had a little bit of a fan base from Pushing Daisies going into the Hobbit, but he was pretty much unknown to most people, and he electrified the screen. It was kind of a blank slate. His character Thranduil was drawn as a goblin in all the animated versions. Like if you want to see, Google Thranduil Rankin and Bass to see what Thranduil always looked like.
You know, he was actually named the King of the Wood Elves in the Hobbit movie from 1977. Right. They didn't even call him Thranduil, really.
So so happy birthday, Lee Pace, and I really hope Warner Brothers offers him his own spin-off. I want to know more about why Thranduil has dragon scars on his face.
I'm with you on that. That's cool.
I want to know why he lets the greenwood become the Mirkwood. I want to know why he becomes an isolationist. Or maybe are elves always isolationists? Because I think a spin-off with Thranduil could explore some of the themes that Rings of Power seems to be exploring, of why is Galadriel not an isolationist? Why is she a warmonger? Why does she want to run into battle everywhere? You know, and then compare that to the Galadriel Lady of Light, who puts a spell on the forest so nobody can see, so nobody can enter the woods of Lothlorien. So Thranduil, I think, is our best opportunity. Besides a young Aragorn, I think Thranduil is the best opportunity for a spin-off that is absolutely a home run $100 million movie.
And also, obviously, that a young Aragorn movie would double back into Thranduil, because young Aragorn would have many adventures and would meet Thranduil and his son, Legolas, and they become friends. So yeah, totally. A Thranduil movie, or series or whatever, yeah, it could double back into a young Aragorn project as well. It really could.
Cliff, do you think Lee Pace's Thranduil arc could have you both hating and loving him at the same time, kind of like a Lannister?
No, I don't know about that. I mean, no,
that's kind of what we got out of the Hobbit movies, though. I want to know how he. I feel like he battled dragons. So
yeah,
in Peter Jackson's world.
No, I don't know if he would end up being like a Lannister. I mean, many of the Lannisters were just purely evil, and in some cases so wildly amoral that they could never be in a Tolkien universe. So I don't even want to make that comparison at all. How about we stick with the idea that Thranduil could be kind of like a compelling character who's like not only overseeing a family dynasty and a new kingdom in the woodland realm, but also having to struggle with, dragons in the north, the movements of the enemy down in the south of his forest, and he gets to make friends with a couple of wizards along the way. Yeah, I think Thranduil character could be all kinds of great stuff. It's all made up from whole cloth. We don't really have much from Professor Tolkien that exists in the text to, they'd have to be making up stuff left and right. But yeah, it could be cool.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. Do you want to see a Thranduil feature film starring Lee Pace, or would you want to see Thranduil join the Rings of Power storyline like season 3 or 4?
Oh, yeah. I like both of those ideas. But hey, The Dragon Demands has latched onto an idea that I like even more. An anthology series. And I actually talked about this once, I think at San Diego Comic-Con a couple of years ago. Wouldn't it be cool to have a Middle-earth anthology series that jumped to very, very different characters and different locations and moments in Middle-earth history? Each different episode could be as functionally different as they needed it to be. Or it could be mini arcs, like in Star Wars, the Clone Wars, the animated series. They will do 2 or 3 episodes that comprise a single story arc. Just 2 or 3. And it encapsulates first act, second act, and the third act of a story. And then bam, episode later, they'll be somewhere else on another planet, somewhere else in the galaxy with other characters. Boom. I really love an anthology series idea. I've always loved an anthology series idea.
I have too. And we talked about that before Amazon
Yeah,
announced the show that they were making. We talked about there is so much in Tolkien's Legendarium that a anthology series like American Horror Story would make sense, where every season is totally, completely unrelated story to the previous season. So every season would stand on its own as a specific tale to tell. I always thought Amazon would be wise to do that, but I appreciate their big swing effort to tell a 5 season story with McPain. But Amazon did also announce from the get-go that they have rights to make as many spin-offs as they want. And what I am surprised is, why isn't Amazon putting into production more anthology series right now as we speak? Why aren't we getting a Thranduil anthology series? Why aren't we getting young Aragorn? I mean, Amazon, they have infinite money. Jeff Bezos moved to Hollywood and said, I'm spending my fortune on Hollywood. So why don't we get Rings of Power alongside young Aragorn, alongside Thranduil? Like, they could do this.
Mm-hmm. We predicted that a long time ago. I described it as a pyramid once. The Rings of Power is the top, and underneath that is other auxiliary items, the next level down, other shows and spin-offs, and then underneath that, more auxiliary spin-off shows and items, projects and games, including VR and other elements of narrative and games.
I just want a show called...
Seriously, it's a big pyramid.
Cecilia, I agree with you. Keeping Up with the Fëanorians sounds like an amazing show. Shoot it handheld. Make it look like a reality show. A lot of family drama there.
You know what? I think an anthology series is within complete bounds of discussion, and not just as, wild fan speculation. No, this is something that could be really down to earth as one of the most realistic, probable things that could be generated out of this ongoing license.
Let me ask you a very, very important question for you specifically, Cliff.
Okay.
All the rights are cleared up. So all systems go. We know Warner Brothers and Embracer are going to make as many movies as they think possible, and we know that Amazon can make as many TV series as possible. So, how big is your appetite, Cliff? How much do you think you can gorge on Middle Earth TV shows that are a season long or 5 seasons long, plus a movie every year for the next 10 years? How much is too much for you?
Every fan is afraid of having diminishing quality. If the content increases and there's a huge influx of product, then they're afraid of it being treated just like that, like an assembly line product. And that's because so many of us are fans with a literary background, and we have a literary connection to the world where we feel, and we do recognize as fans, that the quality of Tolkien's work deserves more than just apparent care. It deserves to be treated with, you know, a diligence and a certain degree of
Well, let's say they solve that.
awareness.
Let's say Peter Jackson signs up to be the Kevin Feige of the movie world, and let's say McKay and Payne and McKay call up their old boss J.J. Abrams to take over the TV show as kind of the overseer of all the TV shows. Let's just say you have. Well, look, J.J. Abrams, he can have a hit or miss, but mostly hits. J.J. is a great storyteller, and he's Spielberg's friend. And
I enjoyed Fringe. I will admit, I enjoyed Fringe.
Yeah. So
yes.
All I'm saying is, let's say what you just said is, you have an appetite for everything that's quality and quality. So let's say that the both studios solve the quality problem. That's Peter Jackson on movies and a big name on TV show. Let's say the quality problem. How much appetite do you have to gorge on Middle Earth? How much is too much? I like the response that someone in the chat room said. Two releases per year. 2 TV shows, 2 movies, a movie and a TV show. But someone in the chat room said no more than 2 new pieces of Middle Earth every year. It might be too much. And
even that would be a lot. Having one huge adaptation, one huge film a year is usually enough. And for a long time it was. Peter was trying to tell one complete story, but he did split it over 3 years. So, I think that if you have to max it out, then I would say yes, 1 feature film, 1 TV series per year. That's it. That would be, I learned this in economics class. It's called the marginal utility of a thing. What is a thing? A thing is a product. It has a consumer demand. And if you give your consumer such a massive supply of it, that thing loses its marginal utility, right? You all learned this in economics class, okay? The marginal utility of a piece of cheesecake is, as my teacher put it, how many pieces do you want to eat before you push the plate away and you stop and say, ugh, I do not want any more of this product, right? And for most people, it might be 1 piece of cheesecake, maybe a couple of bites more. You could never really go 2 full pieces of cheesecake. You can't. You cannot do that. Maybe you could do 1.5. But you see how loose this analogy is? What I'm trying to say is, fairly, that the marginal utility of Middle-earth major adaptations, I would agree, would be rather small. Functionally, in a ratio to other entertainment product that we get all the time, because that marginal utility will get to a point where the consumer just won't want any more of it if they're being overstuffed with it. Look at how people reacted to the movie Solo when they were feeling burnt out from too many other J.J. Abrams Star Wars movies. They wouldn't even give Ron Howard's movie a chance. And Ron Howard made a decent, fun little heist movie, a heist movie set in the Star Wars universe. But consumer demand went down so much because the marginal utility of Star Wars had reached that limit at that point. Seriously. So, and that wasn't entirely fair to the work of Ron Howard, but it is what it is. And after a point in time, is it not true that Kathleen Kennedy and the studio folks at Disney got together with Lucasfilm and they decided to retract a little bit and to change course and to pull back on this wildly aggro schedule that they had of bringing out Star Wars product. I can see the chat room totally blowing up on me right now.
What about
guys
Marvel?
get what I'm saying, right?
I feel like the last
Marvel has no idea what the words marginal utility even means. They have no clue.
They have like 2 or 3 series per year, and I feel like that's too much because I watched all of the Marvel series. I don't even remember what happened in the Hawkeye show, and then someone told me that the result of the Hawkeye show talks to the Stargirl show, which I don't even remember what the Stargirl show was.
The Stargirl showed up in the Sam Raimi directed Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. The Stargirl doesn't even have her TV show yet.
Wait, what? But what
Unless
was
you're talking about Ms. Marvel? Ms. Marvel,
yeah,
is a different character, but that's not the Stargirl.
Oh, see, that's what I'm saying. There's too much Marvel because I always get the Stargirl and Ms. Marvel mixed up when I guess Ms. Marvel is going to be in the Marvels with the Captain Marvel, which is different than Captain Marvel, which is Shazam's nickname in DC. I don't know. It's just it's too confusing.
There was actually in the new Shazam movie, which I recently saw, there's a reference to Captain Marvel. One character, a supernumerary in the background, just says, "Thank you. You're a one and only real Captain Marvel." Though there was a little wink to the Shazam character. But anyways, I wanted to, before we get distracted by all this stuff, I really want to say the Shazam movie, Fury of the Gods, is as mediocre as it was pretty interesting to watch Dame Helen Mirren chewing up the scenery and being awesome, really awesome. And there's also really good Lord of the Rings gags. There's a couple of t-shirts, and there's one really specific Saruman joke in the Shazam movie, which made me laugh out loud. It was really a good Lord of the Rings jokes stuck in the middle of that Shazam movie. There's quite a few little jokes in there. Anyways, just as an aside.
All right, moving on. Our next piece of news relates to the conversation we were just having, which is how much Lord of the Rings is too much. Is it 2 movies? Is it 2 shows? Is it more than that? Less than that? Well, huge news today. Breaking news this afternoon. Jeff Bezos has told his money men to figure out how to buy AMC theaters. This is a deal personally championed by Jeff Bezos himself. This isn't a corporate deal. Like Jeff Bezos has literally said, "Hey guys, I think AMC's undervalued and I think we can grab it." Why does Jeff Bezos want to own a movie theater when all the movie theaters seem to be having a tough time because there are fewer movies being made, and the movies being made are bigger swings? My first thought, and Cliff, I'll get to. I want your reaction to this news. My first thought is Jeff Bezos was prepared to spend billions to get the rights to Lord of the Rings movies, and Jeff Bezos had a bucket of money that he had ready to go to get the movie rights. And when Warner Brothers won, again, this is just a few short weeks ago, when Warner Brothers won the rights back, and it's a long-term deal, and Warner Brothers is in the Lord of the Rings movie business for the next part of our lifetimes, Jeff Bezos is probably fuming that he lost, because Jeff don't lose. He took Mr. Captain Kirk to space. Jeff don't lose. So I think now that Warner Brothers is going to be making theatrical released films, it's interesting that Jeff is trying to buy a movie theater, because now that makes Warner Brothers have to negotiate with Jeff again about Lord of the Rings. What if Jeff says, "Hey, if you don't give us the rights to Thranduil for our TV show, then we won't show your Rohirrim movie in our cinemas"? Like, I feel like that's the kind of negotiations that big time negotiations that this sets up. Cliff, what are your thoughts?
What you just described was comic book villain behavior, not big time negotiations. What you just described was the way a Lex Luthor comic book villain would behave. Are you serious? I mean, this isn't like acquisition of a billion-dollar American theater chain all across the country just to be spiteful against Warner Brothers Discovery. Oh my gosh, what? Okay, all right.
Well,
Look,
Cliff,
all right,
question from the
look,
chat room.
all right.
There must be more reasons. Of course, there's no more reasons. There's never just one reason for to do anything, especially in the Amazon world. But Cliff, do you feel he could he be doing this mostly just to get back at Lord of the Rings?
Um, it could also be that he wants his Amazon studios to broaden the scope of their production and their work and get moved into the arena of being a major player. They might want to do what Netflix had done a few years ago, which is position some of their biggest movies as quote unquote prestige films and put them out as Oscar bait and get the awards and get the attention of the awards and get that legitimacy. So Netflix actually having a movie out that was up for Best Picture caused consternation. It caused a lot of people to be upset, thinking, why are you letting a TV streaming platform all of a sudden move into the motion picture business? And I'm sure, Justin, that you have a lot of thoughts on that too, but I think it is more likely than anything that Bezos wants to position Prime Video as a massive juggernaut in television streaming, and he wants Amazon Studios as motion picture production to be able to take their high-end theatrical movies to their own theater chains to legitimize their presence in the film industry. I think it's a very interesting multi-tiered strategy, but boy, is it business risky. Heavy risk involved in this.
Yeah, huge moves. Question from the chat room or a comment saying maybe he wants to put episodes of his TV shows in theaters. See, this is where it gets complicated because Warner Brothers has the rights to distribute Lord of the Rings movies in theaters. The Amazon and their deal with the Tolkien estate does not allow theatrical release of Rings of Power. And so you ask, how did they do those movie premieres? Well, it's allowed as a marketing expense to just show the first two episodes in movie theaters. So, but the trick was is that they could only show it once per country. So they did a Mexico premiere, they did a Brazil premiere, they did a UK premiere, and then they did a New York premiere. And by the way, they never sold tickets. So it was by invite only. It was free tickets, free popcorn. So they Amazon can't sell tickets to TV Lord of the Rings TV shows in a movie theater. Even if they own the movie theater, their contract does not allow them to theatrically show a movie or a TV show in the theater. So this complicates things. And per the contract, Warner Brothers cannot make a movie for streaming. They cannot release a direct-to-streaming movie like they do with HBO Max, like Netflix does, like Amazon does. So so Warner Brothers has got their hands tied. Every single movie that they do has to be a theatrical release. So if Jeff buys AMC theaters, which is, I've heard reports of 30 to 40% of all the movie screens in America are AMC. That complicates Warner Brothers' potential box office because, and for people saying Jeff isn't that petty, please look up Jeff Bezos. Please do some research. I mean, he had 50 United States every state bidding on where to build Amazon's headquarters. And then he's a union buster and everything like that. Like, I'm telling you, there's some big moves at play, and it's not just ego saying let's buy a movie theater. I think there's a lot of reasons that Jeff would be buying AMC, and so what we will be watching this story with huge news. But Cliff, you know what else came out today?
I think that's a big, fascinating piece of news, and I do wonder what's going to become of it. I do want to reckon with somebody in the chat room who said anybody who owns a movie theater chain, has one interest and one interest only, and that's making money. That's all they want to do. You want to own a theater chain? You're just trying to figure out the way to make money out of it. And I get that, and I do appreciate that. But
Warner's cannot do direct-to-video releases with Lord of the Rings. Period.
No, if Warner Brothers Discovery makes anything, it will be in motion picture theaters. And that's it, right?
Right, and and Warner Brothers cannot make a TV show. So you've heard these rumors about James Cameron turning Avatar 2 into a 9-hour streaming series, like an extended version of Avatar 2 into a 9-hour Disney Plus streaming series.
Wow.
According to the rights of Lord of the Rings, Warner Brothers cannot do that.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, they cannot turn. They cannot. Warner Brothers cannot go back to Peter Jackson, say, put the wedding in, put all the stuff that you cut back in, and let's turn in a 20-hour, 2-season Lord of the Rings super duper extended edition TV series. Warner Brothers cannot do that. Everything Warner Brothers makes has to be theatrically distributed. No direct to home video, no direct to HBO Max. Speaking of that,
right.
Today, Cliff, I don't know if you saw it, but our buddy Don Marshall, along with Corey Olson, the Tolkien professor, and Matt, Nerd of the Rings, have put together an effort to get an extended edition of Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. This article at CNET covers it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, Don Marshall kind of is leading it. He is one of the number one Tolkien lore fact guys on TikTok. So he's put together a little petition to get a long version, the rumored unicorn version that Cliff, you've been talking about for a decade now. So what about second extended edition? That's the joke. I love it. I'm trying to find I can't find a link to the petition right here in this article. But so a bunch of our friends want to petition Warner Brothers and Peter Jackson to give us the super duper extended cut featuring all the things. What you call, Cliff, the Unicorn Edition.
I love that idea. Well, when I mentioned the Unicorn Edition, we're talking about that in relation with other conversations we've had with Bill Hunt at the Digital Bits and with Michael Pellerin, who was the director and producer of the wonderful extended editions appendices material from the home video releases. We're talking about a Unicorn Edition that includes not just the longest possible cut of the film, but also all of the other supplemental materials and extra shots and numerous scenes that were shot and unused, alternate takes that were shot and unused, and bloopers and all that other extra material. Tons and tons of material that gives a chronology of the whole production, not just an extra extended edition. But I do agree with what Don Marshall is doing, and I applaud what he is doing all the way. It's really awesome, and it's super cool. to see fan enthusiasm come back around like this. It's really great.
Yeah. People in the chat room are asking where to sign this, and I can't find it yet. All I have is the article. I've known about this for a while now. I didn't know he was going to launch it right now, and I don't know if he's launched it because I don't see. I think he's going to put it on change.org, but I don't know. There's a lot of Lord of the Rings petitions on change.org right now. I don't know if I want to. I want to go through all those. Cliff, we've got news about Rings of Power. So we've got 3 pieces of news.
One of them is very, very sad.
Well,
actually,
yeah. So let's start there. Let's start with the sad news, Cliff. You heard about this, but
they were doing a big charge with the equestrian skilled riders, the best riders in England. They were doing a big battle scene, and they had the horses going in a big attack formation in full charge, and one of them collapsed and died there right on the set. Which is a devastating thing to watch because I've seen that happen at the horse race track. I mean, one time I went for my friend's birthday to the horse racing, and one of the poor animals died right there. It was just terrible. Excuse me.
I mean, horses have a. This is not unique to to Rings of Power. There have been many horses on many productions, but PETA, the organization for the ethical treatment of animals, put out a statement today saying, basically saying, we don't like animals on set. Period. Which I think is a little too extreme. I think we as film goers and Lord of the Rings fans and Horse Lord fans want to see real horses. Don't you, Cliff?
Because there are people in those stories that love and care for their horses. And Professor Tolkien cared for these beasts, and he regarded them as elegant, wonderful beasts that were integral to the history of these many, many different peoples in his histories. So yeah, he had a really big soft spot for animals and for the natural world in general, of course.
Do you think Tolkien would want horses to be part of a production?
He would expect horses, a man of his generation, having seen the earliest of early movies from the turn of the century, he probably would have been very accustomed to seeing horses on screen. And
Amazon put out a statement immediately saying, "We are deeply saddened to confirm that a production horse died on March 21st. The incident took place in the morning while the horse was being exercised prior to rehearsals. The trainer was not in costume, and filming had not yet commenced. Both a veterinarian and a representative of the American Humane Association were present at the time. The horse died of cardiac failure." So he wasn't even on set. He was being prepped for rehearsals, and it wasn't a hardcore stunt.
That's right. You see, that was really wrongly reported very early on. I had heard that they were in the middle of a very high voltage, energized charging scene coming with lots and lots of horses over the hillside. I was told in the original reporting, and now I'm glad to know at least that was wrong. In the chat, there are those, Eravandi who's quite correct in saying that unfortunately, horses can have hidden health problems just like people can and not even know it. And so evidently the poor beast didn't make it.
Yeah.
Well, they were just in the rehearsing. They were in his pen, right?
Right. And folks, horses are extremely delicate creatures. They look big and awesome, and they can carry a human. Yeah. But like if a horse hurts their leg, they put down the horse. I mean, if a competition horse gets any sort of minimal hurt or fracture or muscle, they put down the horse because they feel that it is general consensus in the equestrian industry that horses need to be fully healthy to live a productive life, and it is too damaging to for a horse to live with an ailment or an issue. So I was shocked. I was shocked to read, especially during the Olympics. You read all these stories about horse culture and rider culture, and I was shocked to learn that it is actually preferential practice to quickly euthanize a horse if anything's ever wrong with them, to save them pain. So this is interesting. We don't know what director was directing the episodes that they were shooting, and we don't know anything. All we know is that statement that Amazon put out. I will say this. It was interesting. I think Amazon is learning from their past mistakes in marketing, because the fact that Amazon put out a statement the same day that the news broke about the horse is more than those two stunt women got when they had brain injuries and required brain surgery on the set of season 1, Rings of Power. As you recall, Galadriel's two stunt doubles, the diving stunt double when she jumps off the ship into the water, she hit her head in rehearsals, and she required brain surgery. And then Galadriel stunt double on a horse, who happened to be Wonder Woman's stunt double from the Wonder Woman movies, hit her head and required brain surgery. So the fact that Amazon kind of was just silent about that and kind of tried to sweep that under the rug, and here we are with a horse dying on the set of season 2, and they're quick to respond. Hopefully means that Amazon recognizes that you have to have some empathy and humanity if you're going to play in the world of Lord of the Rings. I mean, we expect a certain level of humanity, even if the circumstances are extreme. And by the way, Cliff,
I agree.
When it comes to injuries and on set of Lord of the Rings, Amazon isn't unique. I mean, there were so many injuries on Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. I mean, there were so many of them they made fun of him. Viggo broke his toe. Freaking Sean Astin wore a cast for the first third of the movie. It's unbelievable the unsafe working conditions. But we see it as fans. We see it as actors giving it their all for Tolkien.
Yep, we do. We do indeed. It's I hope that everybody is super, super safe, as they do have a great deal of procedures and systems and highly trained professionals in place to try to prevent anything from going awry. But
I mean, Viggo, you're right, Finrod. Viggo broke his toe, chipped a tooth, broke his ribs, nearly drowned. Viggo, this is a movie, folks. And if Amazon was shooting Lord of the Rings now with Viggo, and all of these reports came out that Viggo was just brutalizing his body, there would be a ruckus. But because we watched the movies first, and then we see the documentaries a year later, after we've fallen in love with the performance, I don't know. It's kind of weird how Peter Jackson kind of gets a pass on having a very difficult shoot.
Well, no, I mean,
look, you tell me,
is that what's
any
happening?
actor, let alone a Viggo caliber actor, but any actor going through what Vigo went through for a movie, broken ribs,
I get
chipped
it.
teeth, broken
I get it.
toes. That's just one actor. Like,
And-
why aren't we up in arms over that production being completely unsafe, non-union?
Okay, I get where you're going with this, but honestly, there's a big difference between Peter and his friends down in New Zealand making a little indie film with some money tossed their way from New Line Cinema versus a big, massive infrastructure for a television series going on where they have intimacy coordinators on set and all those things. We're talking about 20 years of difference in time in production and a hell of a lot more systems and safety checks and bulwarks to help prevent things from going south and people getting really hurt like that. Vigo wore his injuries as a badge of pride because that was life with an independent filmmaker making an indie movie. And yeah, I would still qualify the original Lord of the Rings trilogy as an indie film. It's still definitely what are the parameters of making something an indie film? Well, you're making it outside of the Hollywood system. Boom. Lord of the Rings ticks that off.
Rings of Power.
That's a check mark. Yep. You make it outside of the Hollywood system.
Rings of
You
Power.
you get money that is made for that production from other resources, not Hollywood studios, and boom, that's
Rings
the
of Power.
second tick mark that the Lord of the Rings trilogy. You're saying Rings of Power also?
Yeah, I'm saying, Rings of Power.
No.
Amazon Studios didn't really exist. They created a whole department just dedicated to Lord of the Rings. None of these people hired on the show existed.
Everything that Amazon Prime is doing is big Hollywood money because Jeff
is new to Hollywood. This is just money, not Hollywood money.
And they're based at the original Culver Studios where Metro Goldwyn Mayer used to be.
New Line is owned by Warner Brothers.
You couldn't get more Hollywood than that. Okay? No, but New Line didn't use Hollywood money. They made money from foreign markets. All the foreign markets were pre-sold. So that means it was foreign money that made the Lord of the Rings happen. Okay, come on. Anyways.
All right. Moving on.
Okay. All pedantics aside, I do think all this is very weird and interesting, but the comparison is a little bit loosely made. That's all I'm saying.
And also, at the end of the day, you were right. We are 25 years beyond Lord of the Rings production, and there are new rules and regulations for safety on the set, safety for the animals, safety for the actors, safety in uncomfortable situations that, nudity and intimacy and everything like that. So, these rules exist for a reason, and all we can do is Amazon is holding to the rules that are industry standard. Moving on. Speaking of Amazon's production, it has moved from the deserts of the Canary Islands to the beaches of the Canary Islands. This is near Tenerife, or in the Canary Islands. They have been spotted shooting, according to Redanian intelligence. They are still shooting in the Spanish islands of the Canary Islands off the Ivory Coast, I believe. No,
would you look at that?
This is the area that supposedly Rings of Power Season 2 has been spotted filming. We don't know what actors are there. We don't know if it's the same two characters, Gandalf and Nori, that were seen in the desert. But so, Cliff, I want to ask you, is there anything that you can think of related to Rune, or I guess just anything, that feels like this? Anything in Numenor that is described as, I don't know, a pond near the sea?
Well, no. This is what you'd call a cove that has been carved out by the tidal forces of the water. This is an oceanic thing, and if you're trying to put anything in Middle Earth that is that specifically oceanic and maybe just related to a rugged, magnificent coastline, then it might be Numenor related. And I don't know where or what, but this is a magical cove. This is absolutely beautiful, and I don't know where this could possibly be, except if it is on the coasts of Middle Earth. I do like the idea that Gondor says it might be the future site of Dol Amroth, and that would be on the...
What's Dol Amroth?
Well, that's where Prince Imrahil, the Prince of Dol Amroth, comes from. They're a principality of Gondor in the far southern coastal kingdoms of Gondor, way down...
Gondor doesn't exist yet.
That's right. So, but then again, yeah, you're right. But and it wouldn't be. And
the Sea of Rhûn is an inland sea that also borders Dorwinion, but this is not an inland sea. This is a cove, obviously on the ocean.
Well, you know what? If an inland sea is going to be depicted, yes, Rhûn has a massive inland lake, but I think it would be maybe a little bit more placid and wouldn't be that kind of tide and turbulence, and those waves are definitely oceanic. So I'm going to bet that is a Numenorian location. I don't know, maybe it's related to the faithful and Elendil and those Numenorians who remain faithful to the ways of the Valar. Maybe it's a cool, beautiful, interesting place that they find on the far westernmost edge of the Numenorian island, where they have a new settlement, a settlement for the other Numenorians who don't want to worship Morgoth, and they prefer to secretly live on that other side of the island and be faithful to the Valar. That's probably what that would be.
Weebix in the chat room says Bay of Anduni to introduce the faithful.
Love it. That's great.
What does that mean?
Yeah, the Bay of Anduni is that location on the west coast of
but what does he mean to introduce the faithful?
Well, that place has never been introduced in season 1. Going to that far western shore of Numenor has not been done yet. So we haven't met the people there. There may be an existing settlement there.
But what does he mean by faithful?
Well, that's how they're referred to in the books. This is why I was begging you about 35 minutes ago.
Just tell me. I need a two sentence version of what are the faithful.
I've already said it to you. Those Numenorians who remained faithful to the Valar. They would not listen to Sauron when he shows up as, the guy who leads our Pharazôn to start building a temple to Morgoth and starts leading the men of Numenor to worship Morgoth. We're talking about the other Numenorians who refuse any of those evil things, and they remain faithful to the Valar and to the ways that they learned from the elves. And so they go and have a whole different community on the other coast of the island.
Okay. Well, that was from Redanian Intelligence. Fellowship of Fans is reporting these photos, new photos from the set back in England.
Ooh.
A wonderful, obviously they are shooting in in kind of a dense area for England. Big sets. Could this be Aragion? What does that structure feel like?
Yeah, that looks like it could be. That definitely looks like it could be some of the additional buildings that we've already seen. We've had a pulled back wide shot of Aragion. Remember?
Yeah,
we did get to see that. Why wouldn't these be some other interior structures in there?
This is being built in Buttersteep Forest in Ascot. Buttersteep Forest back in Ascot. The interesting thing here, Cliff, you can see these multiple turrets with blue screen. They're incomplete and they have blue screen. Why wouldn't they just complete the architecture? Obviously, this is near these don't extend 100 feet up. it's quite obvious that this architecture is elven inspired, and these are going to be domes. Why don't they just build the domes to look like Weta Workshop's wonderful dome elvish architecture? Why wouldn't they just complete it?
That saves money, doesn't it? They don't have to build an edifice of a thing that is so tall. It starts, maybe they have restrictions about how tall they can build things in that area.
Oh,
And
interesting. Yeah.
they could do the other half of it digitally. So they satisfy local zoning limitations or permits that have limits on them, and then they get to digitally finish the rest of the way.
I actually really like that explanation that they are building to the maximum allowed height. I do like that explanation, and I'm going to accept that.
I bet you a lot of the local farmers and the other local landowners have been raising a local ruckus at City Hall or at the county meetings to make sure that they don't have giant things built over the horizon of the trees that, destroys the entire British landscape from every view.
Counterpoint, having talked to some farmers while I was in England last year, counterpoint to that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I talked to the farmer that sold
intriguing.
his land to Amazon to build the expansion to Shepperton Studios.
Oh, dear. Really?
And I can tell you that most farmers in England, no matter where they are, most farmers in England have been absolutely hurt and crushed by Brexit. Brexit has decimated their business, and a lot of farmers are just trying to sell the land and stay afloat as much as they can. So I don't think I do like your concept of, I don't think England is the type of place to give height variances to local to build. I will also say this: the sets, as far as we've heard so far, Amazon is building the sets to be used for all future seasons. So these are not one and done, build it out of foam and walk away after you're done. There's a lot of filming to be had over the next 4 seasons of TV show. So they are building these as semi-permanent buildings for the next, how many years will it take to film?
Several years. Can you imagine having to put up with all those long, wet English winters year after year, just so they can dry it out again and start filming again next spring?
Well, they can cover it up.
Yeah, but that sounds much more likely. That's a very interesting aspect of this story to me, that they're going to keep the edifices going and keep them built. And if they're modular, they might move them around and change them around to make some variations in their shots. It's very interesting.
All right, and our final piece of news this week, man, we're going back to our normal 90-minute shows because there's just so much to talk about every single week.
That's good.
Cliff.
Justin.
You don't.
Justin.
I know you don't like this. I know you didn't like the concept 2 years ago when we first reported on it.
What's going to happen now?
I know you didn't like it last summer when it was getting hot. I know you didn't like it when you went to the premiere and talked to McPain face to face. I know you appreciated that it wasn't in season 1.
Oh dear.
But we're here today to talk about the relationship of Sauron and Galadriel, or as we like to call Haladriel, because Halbrand and Galadriel, as far as I'm concerned, as far as everything that I've heard, they were meant to hook up. They were meant to connect. They were meant to have an emotional moment where both of them seal their personal connection. What does that look like? I don't think they filmed anything that went vulgar, because Tolkien would not want anything vulgar. Sex or drugs, rock and roll. Would they have kissed? I don't know. But I do think that there was a bond, and we keep talking about this. Did Halbrand hook up with Galadriel emotionally? Maybe not physically, but psychologically and emotionally. And there's a whole bunch of Twitter people, that want to believe that Hadriel was real. Cecilia in the chat room is saying Justin and his faith to his illusions.
Yeah,
but Cliff,
this whole thing, this is going to come down to what Bear McCreary just talked about in his recent blog post.
Well, let's put it up on screen, Cliff, and let me put the camera on you.
Okay.
Bear McCreary tweets today in his new blog post. Episode 106 features a powerful, intimate dialogue scene between Galadriel and Halbrand, where threads of their themes interweave into a complex sonic tapestry. He continues, Bear McCreary.
Yes.
Bear McCreary says a last-minute re-recording replacing Halbrand's bright Hardanger fiddle with a rich cello solo saved his melody in the scene.
Yeah, so that means there was a last-minute change. The melodies were supposed to be brought together in the music to suggest what would have happened if the characters Galadriel and Halbrand had gotten a little bit more, I don't know, if they had really done the hokey pokey. Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm saying that Galadriel is real, and they formed a bond. And
yeah, okay.
So first off, let's break this down. Cliff, let me ask you, what my take? He says right here, a last-minute re-recording.
Yes.
In my mind, that is as close to confirmation that the original intent of their relationship was changed at the last minute. Will you give me that?
Yeah, I would give you that. That's just as likely as anything.
Okay. Okay.
Go, but you think it supports?
Wait. Let's take this
full direction with that.
Step by step. All right. So you step by step. You will give me that piece of news that Bear McCreary confirms a last-minute change to the relationship. Okay.
Therefore, there needed to be a last-minute. Well, he said there needed to be a last-minute change in the music, not the story. Not the story.
Okay.
He didn't say that.
Yeah. All right. A last-minute re-recording, by the way, which tells me it was edited a certain way because the way they score to picture, right? They're playing to picture when they record. So re-recording means the edit changed. Will you give me the potential that the end of the season might have been re-edited at the last minute based on
that's possible.
Based on fan reaction?
Yep, that's possible.
Okay. All right. Give me that. Okay. Thank you. All right. Cliff, will you tell me what the sonic difference is between a fiddle and a cello?
Well, one of them sounds more richer and deeper. The cello is a deeper, more resonant sound that can hit different notes than a fiddle. A fiddle is more bright and folksy.
Bright and folksy, almost. I don't know. I would say loving and building, where a cello is dark and moody and depressing.
Oh gosh.
Okay. So will you give me the replacement? Will you give me the replacement?
No, you're getting silly. This has become pedantic now. You have become so pedantic with this now. Come on.
Cliff, it's right there on screen. He says a last-minute change required me to replace the fiddle, an alto fiddle, with a bass cello. What do you think that implies from a thematic storytelling standpoint? What is your take on those two instruments?
Simply, maybe we could speculate till the cows come home, but maybe he just thought it would sound better, that there was a more serious tone to it instead of, the fiddle, the way the bright fiddle is used by Howard Shore when we're being introduced to the Shire for the very first time, and all those beautiful green grasslands, and it's all bright and very I should say Irish or Celtic sounding happiness in that green.
You know when else he uses the fiddle? He uses when Sam is courting Rosie.
Yeah, and maybe he wanted to use a cello because it had a more serious and somber tone. Who knows? Who knows?
A cello is somber, and a fiddle is happier and anticipation. A fiddle represents happiness and anticipation and looking toward the bright side of life, to quote our wonderful comedian friends. And a cello is not. All right, so we disagree on that point. I think the change in the instrument is a big tell that Galadriel was real, but you don't agree with that. Okay, I'll give you that. All right, so I'm 2 for 3. All right, and then finally, Cliff, on this post, again, you can read it at bearmccreary.com. He says, the threads of their themes interweave into a complex sonic tapestry.
Yes.
There's no other way I can read that statement that doesn't imply Galadriel was meant to be. They were meant to interweave.
Well, maybe that's what was told to Bear McCreary by the writer's room with some of their original ideas. But if that were so, then maybe we should all be grateful that they didn't really do that. Because in the end, you're fishing for weird little confirmations and reassurances in this. This is funny. It's really funny what you're doing here, Justin.
Look,
it's kind of hilarious. But look, if they were going to do it and then suddenly they changed it, then good for them. Maybe they were looking at, we don't want this situation. We don't want to piss off all the fans. Maybe we should retool this concept.
I think you, the Tolkien professor Corey Olson, Nerd of the Rings Matt, I think the unified voice that all of you said to McPain to their face in New York City at the premiere, everyone said to their face, they better not look up. I wonder if they actually listened to it, because Cliff, the words that he chooses, Bear McCreary specifically says, their themes were meant to interweave into a complex tapestry. This was not supposed to be a audio dialogue between two competing ideas of Middle Earth. And that's when a lot of music is performed like that, where you have two diametrically opposite an argument happening. You have an argument happening, and the music reflects that. The instrument goes from dun dun dun, and then dun 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 dun, and then like pianos to drums when people are speaking, because the music is meant to reinforce what is supposed to be happening on screen. So the fact that Bear McCreary says themes interweave.
Yep. Yeah.
I don't know. This tweet is evidence.
There's also evidence, as our friend in the YouTube chat, XOXO2000, has just said. I remember reading the Emmy magazine deemed Halbrand as Galadriel's love interest, and Reddit lost their minds. So maybe that was originally one of the directions they were going to go. Maybe
I
in the
think
change from a 10 episode season and reducing it down to 8 episodes.
I think it happened
Maybe
even
some of
later
those
than
things
that.
really changed.
I think it really changed. Look, I'm
Well,
a Galadriel truther because
Good. I'm glad it changed.
I think they
Good.
wrote it that way. I think they filmed it that way.
And it
I
would have
think
been disastrous if that's what they had given us.
I
If they'd
don't agree.
given us that, it would have been an absolute unmitigated shit show.
I
Period.
think it was in the edit, the 8-season edit. I think it was in the edit when they scored to picture, and I think they changed it because when do they, like, episode 6? So we're talking like that's 6 weeks. That's 5 weeks after the premiere of the show. I will bet that they changed it between launch weekend, September 2nd. And when it finally came out 5 weeks later. That's 5 full weeks where they can re-edit the show, rescore it. Cliff, you know that gives them enough time to make the change.
Yep. Who knows? But thank you, Restart Point, for saying, thank God they cut out the love scene between Leia and Vader in Star Wars at the last minute. Thank you for making my point.
Well,
thank you for making my point.
So I disagree. I think the show would have been stronger. I think the show would have been stronger.
Okay.
If and people in the chat are saying, "Oh, Celeborn's rolling in his grave." Right? Exactly. I think the Celeborn. I've talked about this. I think the Celeborn name drop and the final episode was a late reshoot. I think they realized they listened to all of the fans, the majority of fans. The 95% of fans that said you cannot do this. But everything else in the show makes sense. They made her single. She doesn't have a kid. She doesn't have her husband until the end of the season. Everything makes sense to setting her up to have a relationship. Maybe not a carnal relationship, but an emotional one where they connect on a psychological level, if not physical level. And I think this tweet from Bear McCreary is all the confirmation I need that things changed in the end. And I hope
they did.
I
Thankfully.
predict. I hope.
And I'm thankful to this day.
I know. Everyone in the chat room is thankful too. I think and I hope that if the rumors are true that season 2 is a retelling of season 1 events from Sauron's perspective, I hope that we do get a confirmation that Sauron fell in love with Galadriel. If we're gonna see the same story told from Sauron's perspective, you know, the ice castle, how he ended up on the raft, going to Numenor for the first time. If we're gonna see all of that again, but from Sauron's perspective.
Is this what you want, Justin? This is what
that
you
is
want.
all I want. I need Sauron to say, and I nearly fell in love with an elf. I nearly fell in love with her.
You want all this crazy business, don't you?
So
funny.
You know what?
You're so funny.
You got what you wanted on the show. You got what you wanted. So I feel that they intended to make a show that I was going to love. They got cold feet because all of the smart Tolkien people told them that's a bad idea, and you ruined my enjoyment, Cliff. And I'm blaming this on you because Bear McCreary just basically confirmed it.
I'll buy you a drink next time I see you. I'll make up for it, Justin. All
right. By the way,
first round is on me. But look, do you know what? For that story to have gotten past anyone, for that element of that story to think that, you know, Galadriel, it's bad enough that we're given a version of Galadriel who got suckered by Sauron, which never happened in the books. It would have been a million times more egregious to the sensibilities of Tolkien fans everywhere if they hooked up. So anyways, whatever.
I've said, how many years? 5 years I've said Riverdale in Rivendell. That's all I've wanted from the show. A nice little TV show where young versions of all of our favorite characters get into complicated relationships that so and so hooks up with so and so and so and so, and then so and so offers her daughter to so and so, her best friend, and da da da. Like, some of that is true to Tolkien. I just want to have a little messy. I want to have a messy show, just a little bit. By the way, if you go to Bear McCreary's blog, he's also translated all of the Quenya from the songs. So here, and someone called him out because in his blog he says it's Sindarin, and he has the English translation: "Death everywhere, quiet everywhere, unnumbered tears everywhere." He's translated all of the Sindarin, which is actually Quenya, and he was corrected on Twitter, and he owned up to say misclassifying, Sindarin as Quenya as Sindarin. So there you go. So
excellent,
Cliff. Will you allow me the potential that this was planned and they did change, and the final story, the final canon, is what you wanted? But will you allow me this proof, this further proof that the original intent is different?
Yeah, sure. Anything like that is just as likely as anything else. Yeah. But I'm glad that we're not dealing in that possibility any longer. But yeah, sure, I'll give you that.
There you go.
There you go.
The chat room wants to highlight unnumbered tears in this song, and you're right. I do not know the reference to what this song's talking about. So that's why I say go to bearmccreary.com, because you guys might appreciate the lyric translations more than I will. Cliff, thank you. This has been a packed show full of news and excitement.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff, a lot of news and interesting bits and bobs. It's great to have our audience with us once again when we take our little weekly foray into the land of mischief. Do we have any Green Dragon gossip before we close the show, Justin?
No, but March Madness round 3 voting is up. Go to the OneRing.net. Yes. It's one of the first posts on the front page. You can click through and vote for your Sweet 16, and we will announce the winners tomorrow afternoon at 6 p.m. Eastern, I believe. So get your votes in for Middle-earth March Madness Sweet 16, and maybe the White Tree will make it to the Final Four. But that's up to you to vote. Vote for the White Tree and vote for Sadok, because those are the only ones I want.
You guys, in case you haven't seen it yet, the March Madness is a really, really fun popularity contest. Go and enjoy it and check it out. And what a great show. Here we are at the end of another Tuesday for the OneRing.net. All of you beautiful people out there, if you want to follow us more, and you will be able to get more news and information, rumors, confirmed and unconfirmed, and more bright spotlights on some of the greatest luminaries in the world of Tolkien. And give a big shout out right now to Don Marshall and Matt Nerd of the Rings and Corey Olson, Tolkien professor, for getting a leg up to get Warner Brothers and Peter Jackson to get into a more extended version. There's so much material that everyone would still love to see. And that kind of fan enthusiasm really is great to see. Hey, thank you.
Final thing. Get your tickets for that Return of the King extended edition.
They're all sold out. They're going to be sold out. They're mostly sold out.
Yeah, seriously. They've added a second show. There's 2 shows on April 13th and 19th. So it's 2 Thursdays in a row. We're just a few weeks away from it. So make sure, look for your tickets. Go to Fathom Events or go to your local AMC or Cinemark or Regal Cinemas website. Those are the 3 cinemas, AMC, Regal, and Cinemark, are all showing Return of the King extended edition in theaters. And we just got word that some exciting extra content will be shown on screen before the movie, including cool. Elijah Wood introducing and having some memories on 20th anniversary. So get your tickets. It's April 13th or April 19th. Tickets are available right now for Return of the King extended edition, new 4K DCP. It's not just a Blu-ray. It is the full theatrical DCP.
I'm so excited about this. It's going to be awesome, and hope to see you guys there at that theater. We'll be talking more about that when we get close to that day. In the meantime, you folks who've joined us, look for us on the website. Point your web browser to theonering.net.
http://
Just like that. Exactly. www.theonering.net. You can also find us on social media by looking up the One Ring Net and take out the dot. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at QuickBeam2000, and it would be lovely to have you guys join us on our further excursions into Middle Earth. Next week, we're going to have even more craziness and great news stories, breaking news, and really going to cover all things J.R.R. Tolkien, as only we can do best. So thank you again to that wonderful audience. Thank you, audience. Hey, Eruvandi, you're the best. Otaku Senpai, you're the best. Wheat Bix, you are the best. All you guys, hey, Cecilia, you're the best. All you folks. And you know what, Justin? I want to say thank you and acknowledge you for pulling things together so we can have a wonderful show this week.
For holding the
well.
candle for Galadriel. I will do that until my dying day.
Okay, I'm done. I'm totally done. I'm done. Everybody, thank you very much for joining us. Please, you can join us next Tuesday for the OneRing.net Torn Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Until then, take good care of yourselves. Please be safe, be gentle with one another. And until then, as I like to say, good night and good luck. Or better yet, buenos noches y buena suerte. Bye, everybody.
Galadriel lives.